single gunshot in a provincial city. That was all it took. Not an invading army, not a peasant revolt, not a foreign conqueror at the gates. One bullet, fired by a 19-year-old with a failing lung and a pistol he almost dropped. And within 4 years, 600 years of dynasty would cease to exist. This was not a fall. This was a detonation with a very long fuse. This is the death of the Habsburg Empire. In the hill country of what is now Switzerland, a minor count named Rudolf wins the crown of the Holy Roman Empire almost by accident. The electors thought him too weak to be dangerous. They were wrong. Rudolf begins a project that will outlast every rival dynasty in Europe: marriage. While other houses conquered with swords, the Habsburgs conquered with weddings. Bohemia, Hungary, Burgundy, Spain, the Netherlands, one by one they arrived not through invasion but through inheritance. By the 16th century, a Habsburg sits on a throne that spans from Vienna to Madrid to the mines of Peru. Historians will later coin a phrase for it: Bella gerent ali tu Felix Austria nube. Let others wage war. You happy Austria marry. But an empire assembled through marriage contracts rather than conquest carries a hidden flaw. It has no single people, no single language, no single loyalty holding it together. It is not a nation. It is a legal arrangement wearing a crown, and legal arrangements can be renegotiated or broken. By 1867, the strain has become impossible to hide. The Austrians cannot control Hungary by force any longer, so they do something almost unprecedented. They split the throne in two. The Ausgleich, the compromise, creates Austria-Hungary. One emperor, two parliaments, two capitals, two governments, bound together by nothing but a signature and a shared monarch. It is, in effect, an empire held together with diplomatic tape. And inside this dual monarchy, 11 other nationalities live under a crown that was never designed to represent them. Czechs, Poles, Croats, Serbs, Slovenes, Romanians, Ruthenians, millions of people governed in a language and by a class that is not their own. The empire calls this unity. The people living inside it increasingly call it a cage with very good architecture. At the center of this cage sits one man who has reigned so long he has become mistaken for the empire itself. Franz Joseph, crowned in 1848, a year of revolutions across Europe. He has now ruled for nearly 6 decades by the time our story truly begins. He has buried his brother, executed by firing squad in Mexico. He has buried his son, dead in a murder-suicide at a hunting lodge, a scandal the palace spent years trying to bury with him. He has buried his wife, Empress Elizabeth, stabbed through the heart on a lakeside promenade by an anarchist who did not even know who she was. Franz Joseph has learned to survive catastrophe by pretending catastrophe did not happen. He governs from behind a wall of denial so thick that even his own ministers cannot always tell what he actually believes. Which brings the empire and the world to the 28th of June, 1914, Sarajevo. The heir to the throne is not Franz Joseph's son. It is his nephew, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a man the old emperor privately despises, for the crime of marrying a woman not born of sufficiently royal blood. Franz Ferdinand travels to Bosnia, annexed by Austria only 6 years earlier, to inspect military maneuvers. It is, by any modern security standard, a suicidal itinerary. The date chosen for the visit, the 28th of June, is Serbia's most sacred day of national mourning, the anniversary of the Battle of Kosovo, 5 centuries earlier. To the empire, it is a scheduling coincidence. To Serbian nationalists, it is an open provocation, staged on their day of grief, inside a province they consider stolen. Waiting along the motorcade route are 7 young conspirators, armed and positioned by a Serbian nationalist secret society. The first assassin loses his nerve. The second throws a bomb that bounces off the Archduke's car and detonates behind it, wounding bystanders instead. The plot appears to have failed. Franz Ferdinand, furious and shaken, insists on visiting the wounded in hospital. His convoy takes a wrong turn. The driver stops the car to reverse, directly in front of a delicatessen where one of the conspirators, Gavrilo Princip, is standing, his mission already abandoned in his mind. He does not need to hunt his target. His target has been delivered to him, 2 shots. One tears through the Archduke's neck. The other strikes his wife Sophie in the abdomen. She has thrown herself across him without a word. Within minutes, both are dead. Franz Ferdinand's final words, according to witnesses, were spoken not about himself but about her. Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children. It is a domestic tragedy. It becomes a continental war within 37 days. Vienna wants a reckoning. The empire's military leadership has wanted a war with Serbia for years. viewing the small kingdom as the infection point for every nationalist movement threatening to unravel the dual monarchy from within. The assassination gives them the pretext they had been waiting for. Austria-Hungary issues Serbia an ultimatum engineered to be rejected. It is. Austria-Hungary declares war. And because Europe's great powers have spent a decade constructing a web of alliances meant to prevent exactly this kind of conflict, that web now does the opposite of its design. Russia mobilizes to defend Serbia. Germany mobilizes to defend Austria-Hungary. France is bound to Russia. Britain is bound to France. Within days, a regional police action against a small Balkan kingdom has become the First World War. The empire believed it was disciplining an unruly neighbor. It had instead pulled the pin on its own execution. Franz Joseph does not live to see the war's conclusion. In November 1916, at the age of 86, he dies in his study, working at his desk until the end, still reading dispatches from a front that was slowly bleeding his empire white. His grandnephew, Karl, inherits not a throne but a burning building. Karl is 29 years old, decent, sincere, and hopelessly out of his depth. He inherits an army that has already suffered catastrophic losses, an economy strangled by naval blockade, and a population fracturing along the exact ethnic lines the empire had spent centuries trying to paper over. Karl attempts secret peace negotiations behind Germany's back. He is discovered, humiliated, and forced into a public denial that destroys what little credibility he has left. He tries reform. It is decades too late. By 1918, the war is being lost on every front, and something more dangerous than defeat is spreading through the empire's provinces. The belief that the empire itself is no longer necessary. Czech leaders in exile have spent the war convincing Western governments that an independent Czechoslovakia should exist. South Slav leaders are negotiating the creation of a new Yugoslav state. Polish territories look toward reunification with a reborn Poland. Hungary begins asserting a right to fully independent statehood, no longer content with the compromise of 1867. The empire is not being conquered from outside. It is dissolving from within, province by province, like ice breaking apart on a lake in early spring quietly at first. Then all at once, in October 1918, the Emperor Karl issues a desperate manifesto, offering to transform the empire into a federation of self-governing nations under the crown. It is a plan that might have worked decades earlier. Delivered now, it is not read as generosity. It is read as confirmation that the center has already lost control, and that whoever moves first will inherit the pieces. Nations do not wait to be granted independence they believe they can simply take. Within weeks, Czechoslovakia declares itself. The South Slav state that will become Yugoslavia declares itself. Hungary declares full separation from Austria. Poland reconstitutes. The empire that Rudolf built through marriage contracts 6 centuries earlier evaporates in a matter of days, not through a single battle, but through a cascade of declarations, each one making the next inevitable. On the 11th of November, 1918, the very same day, the armistice ends the war on the Western Front. Emperor Karl signs a document, relinquishing his participation in the affairs of state. He does not abdicate, technically. He simply steps back from a throne that, in practical terms, no longer governs anything. 2 days later, he does the same for Hungary. The Habsburg monarchy, which had outlasted the Reformation, the Ottoman sieges of Vienna, the wars of Louis XIV, the armies of Napoleon, and the revolutions of 1848, ends not with a final battle, but with a signature on a piece of paper. In a palace the new republic will soon nationalize. Karl and his family are exiled. He will attempt twice to reclaim the Hungarian throne and fail both times. He dies in poverty and obscurity on the Portuguese island of Madeira in 1922, at the age of 34. From pneumonia, he could not afford proper treatment for the last emperor of a 600-year dynasty, dead in a rented villa, mourned by almost no one who mattered anymore. What remains, in the years after, is not one empire but a scattering of new, fragile nation-states. Austria, reduced to a small Alpine republic. Hungary stripped of 2/3 of its historic territory. Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia born from the wreckage, each carrying inside it the same unresolved ethnic tensions the empire had spent centuries suppressing, rather than solving. Those tensions do not disappear with the crown. They simply lose the lid that had been holding them down. Within a generation, the successor states of the Habsburg collapse will become the fault lines of an even darker chapter of European history, the rise of fascism, and a second world war that will finish what the first one started. The Habsburgs did not fall because an empire was invaded. They fell Because an empire built on inherited paperwork mistook the appearance of unity for the reality of it. For 600 years, a dynasty had governed diversity by refusing to acknowledge it as a problem. One bullet in Sarajevo did not create that problem. It simply removed the last excuse to keep pretending it did not exist. Bella geranta li tu felix Austria nube. Let others wage war, you happy Austria marry. In the end, it was not war that killed the House of Habsburg. It was the war they finally could not marry their way out of.